And what's up, everybody, and welcome back to Coast Coast Gridiron, a football podcast. On today's episode, I have a very special guest joining me. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, he was the 20th pick in the third round of the 2019 CFL draft. After redshirting his freshman year at Penn State, he returned back to Canada to play four pretty good seasons at UBC, capturing, including one Vanier Cup. The 51st Vanier Cup champions went to the UBC Thunderbirds. Michael O'Connor. Michael, how you doing today?
Oh, doing great, Cole. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. I appreciate you joining me. I know you're busy. I know you've been training. I know you're kind of it's getting close to the season here, so I really appreciate you taking out some time here, a late night here, and giving my viewers a chance to maybe get to know you a little bit and talk some football, man. So I appreciate you joining me.
Oh yeah, I love talking football.
All right, man.
Anytime.
So before we get going, just wanted to say a quick thank you to everybody for supporting the podcast so far. If you guys are liking the episode so far, don't forget to like, comment, most importantly, subscribe, share the episodes, check out the Apple Podcast channel, everything we got going on over there, and I appreciate all your guys' support so far. So, Mike, personally, I was looking forward to this episode when I reached out to you. You're not familiar, but I played a little bit of quarterback myself. Nothing crazy, nothing at a high level or anything like that. I played a few years backing up in the CFL, the Canadian Junior Football League. I played for the Vancouver Island Raiders here in my hometown. So when I hit you up, I was very, very excited to kind of chat and maybe get a little bit of your perspective of kind of your football journey, because you're someone that's very accomplished, someone that's I guess maybe you could say like breaking some of the narratives about Canadian athletes and Canadian quarterbacks specifically of can they compete and can they do it at like the high level, including like the CFL, NFL, that kind of thing. So I was really excited. So maybe if we could get started, maybe just bring it back. You could maybe introduce yourself to myself and the viewers. Maybe how did you get into football? What age did you start? Were you in like a football family? Maybe you had some siblings older than you, or maybe your dad played or something like that. How did you kind of get into football, and when did you start playing football?
Yeah, so football's been part of my life ever since I can remember. I I'm actually a big Miami Dolphins fan. I have no idea why, but my first memory I ever have as a kid is wearing a Miami Dolphins hat, watching my brother play football. So that's kind of how I grew up, is just going to watch his games, and I actually got started playing when I was 7. I don't know if they're still letting the 7-year-olds play tackle football anymore, but I was got going at 7 years old, and ever since then it just kind of kept playing. But yeah, my family's been is big into football. My uncle played at Ottawa U and Queens, and he won a Vanier Cup at Ottawa U as a linebacker. So definitely football's runs in the family, and I'm just happy to continue the tradition and hopefully one day pass it on to my kids as well.
Very cool, man. Very cool. It's always neat when you have some football blood in the family, and it kind of maybe is tradition around the dinner table, if you will, or when you guys get together for family gatherings and all that sort of thing. So you mentioned there that you started playing football at the age of 7. Now I'm curious. We all know that you play quarterback now. Could you maybe tell us the story of when did you start playing quarterback? And how did that process kind of go? And what positions were you playing before you started playing the quarterback position?
Yeah, I started out playing the O-line actually for I think a lot 4 years, 3 to 4 years, I think, and I loved it. It just was so much fun, especially at that age. You just kind of getting physical, and just saying, okay, take that guy and move him that way. I thought it was really fun. And then I ended up switching to linebacker. Um, and again, that was awesome playing football as a little kid, playing linebacker. It's just like see ball, get ball, not much to it. So that was just fun, just running around. And then one year, when I was a little bit older, our quarterback, he was playing lacrosse, and then he wasn't able to make it for the start of the football season. And so one of the coaches said, "Hey, Mikey, why don't you go try throwing it?" And then I was throwing it well, and he's like, "All right, you're the quarterback now." And then ever since then, I've just been a quarterback.
That's cool to hear, man. And that's like for someone that's I guess you're 27 years old now. That's like rare because you were doing some high stuff with not a lot of experience, right? I believe later down the line you kind of had some success in high school, had some success in university and all that sort of thing. And it's crazy to think that you didn't start playing the position until you're 12 years old. So that's just kind of neat, in my opinion. So um
I do think one of the reasons that I'm a good quarterback is because I didn't start so early. So I didn't like develop the bad habits. You know what I mean? I just
yeah,
kind of, it's kind of something that I just was good at and not something that kind of I forced myself into. You know what I mean?
yeah, no,
And then
that
also too is, oh, go ahead.
no, that makes sense what you're saying. Continue, Mike.
Oh yeah. No, I'd say also I played basketball, baseball, track and field, and football growing up, all through high school. So that's something that I do credit as well for. Um, my ability is playing all the sports kept me kind of working on my athleticism in ways that if I had just focused on football, I don't think I'd be where I am today. So I always like to say that to the kids today is like go play multiple sports. Don't just pick football from an early age because that's one of the worst things you can do, in my opinion.
Absolutely, Mike. I'm glad you said that. I definitely preach that uh same mentality. And when I have a family one day, hopefully I have some kids one day, I definitely will preach that there's no off season or whatever. It's just the next sport for that season or whatever. I think it's a good whether you like it or love it or not, it's good conditioning, right? You're being active and all that sort of things. And then if you do kind of like it or you do love it and you can enjoy it, it's an extra bonus of kind of killing the off season of maybe one of your main sports. I too played a little bit of basketball in high school, so you know, as you know, once football season was over, it was kind of get into basketball season till spring, and then spring season would come, and then it would be spring football. So it kind of that ritual of school and kind of just how you get in your routine as a student athlete, I guess, if you will. So when I was doing a little bit of research, I found, I guess, a name kind of coming up continuously. I forgive me if I'm pronouncing his last name wrong, but I'm curious, what does Victor Tedondo am I saying his name correct?
Oh yeah,
Uh,
Coach Vic, that's
yeah.
right.
What does he mean to you? When I was reading a little bit about you, I believe he was someone that was kind of influential in your football career. Somebody that kind of I believe he started the
Gridiron Academy.
Gridiron Academy at like a 7 on
Oh
7
yeah.
type thing for you to kind of get exposure down south and at 7 on 7 camps, that sort of thing. I believe he kind of maybe did some talking to some coaches. I'm not really sure, but what kind of what did Coach V mean to you?
Oh, he's the world to me. I mean, I never really realized this, but I realized that family, it's more than just blood. And that's the first person and maybe one of the only person in my life where I could say that about, because that's just how much he means to me. He's like my brother, and I'd do anything for him. But he was basically, without him, I'm not here today. And he definitely sacrificed a lot um, to give myself and other players opportunities down south. I mean, I remember he was working a full time 9 to 5, but 4 or 5 times a week we're in the dome training at 8 to 10 or 7 to 9. And that's I just kind of an aside. Like I got to thank my parents a lot too because my mom said she was like a taxi driver for 3 or 4 years there, just taking me from place to place. So without my parents, like I wouldn't be here as well. But Coach Vic was, yeah, he was working a full time 9 to 5, and then he would like from 7 to 9, 3 or 4 times a week. We'd have training at the Dome in Orleans, and then he would take his vacation time at work and he would pack 7, 8 of us in a van, rent a van, go down to the States and hit all these camps, 7 on 7, university camps, whatever. And it kind of made me realize like he really cared about us, and he really wanted to see us succeed. And and he really knew, he believed in us, and he knew what we could accomplish. And that's something I'll always take with me. And I always say, if I can be like Coach Vic, then I would consider my life a success, because he's touched so many athletes and made their lives a lot better. And he means the world to me, because, like I say, without him, I'm not here. And he just gave up so much of his time. It wasn't about the money for him. Like I said, he just wanted us to see us succeed, and knew that, if it wasn't going to be him, who was it going to be?
That's
There was no one doing that back in the day. Like, we were the first ever 7-on-7 team in all of Canada, to go down to the States and to compete like that. So when I say Coach Vic is like an OG of basically Canadian football development, I really mean that. I mean, he's got over 20 kids now that got D1 scholarships since 2013. And that's just based off Orleans, a little suburb in the east side of Ottawa. And it just goes to show you the power of one man. And you really can make a difference in the world. You gotta do it though. And he's one of those people that, like I say, I can't say enough good things about him. And even now, getting older now, and now that I'm getting into coaching a little more, it's like I realize how much he impacted me, because now I just want to get back to the kids so much and try and give them that experience, and try and let them chase their dreams and help them get there, just like Coach Vic helped me.
Hell yeah, man. Shout out to your coach V. And something you said there is kind of that he gave you guys the belief in yourselves, right? Obviously, I think a lot of athletes will have that self-belief, but ultimately, like, I feel like maybe it's something that kind of pushes you over the edge is maybe that, like, that person that also believes in you, like when maybe you fail or something like that, or maybe you're a little bit down on yourself, and that person's there to continue to push you forward and be like, no, no, like, I believe in you. We're going to be able to get through this. We're going to be able to get done. And I feel like that's kind of like, that's a, like you said, right? That's like family to you. And for someone that you weren't obviously his kids or anything like that, but he treated you guys like, I would imagine, like he was your guys's, or like he was your guys's father figure type thing. So really cool to hear about that, man. Now, moving forward, you end up going to, I believe, Ashbury School in Ottawa. Take us through what that experience was like playing high school football in Canada. I was doing some research, like I mentioned earlier, and I came across that in your grade 10 season, I believe you had 51 touchdowns to
Oh, wow.
seven interceptions. So just take us through what kind of your whole experience was like playing high school football, because obviously, it's a lot different than what it's like down south.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, I was playing so for ninth and 10th grade, I was playing in two different leagues. I was playing at high school, and then I was playing community football as well. Um, I think the high school games were Saturday and the community games were Sunday. So again, it worked out. But like I say, shout out to my parents, because they would, I'd go to high school practice and then come home and then go to community practice. Um, but yeah, it was pretty cool, man. Like I said, I love football, so I was getting to play twice a week, two times every weekend. It was awesome, and getting the chance to go to Ashbury, which is like a very um, it's a very well respected school in Ottawa. It's very high education, very good education. Uh, so that was a blessing. I wouldn't have been there without football too, because football helped me to get a scholarship to play there. So like I say, it was just a blessing, and yeah, I always say, like, the most fun you'll ever, I tell the kids all this time, like, the most fun you'll ever have in your whole life is playing high school football. So, like, cherish that, and don't take a second for granted. Don't take a day for granted, because I just there's nothing like it.
It's the purest of football. I feel like once you get into a little bit of the higher levels, I feel like politics kind of starts to play a little bit too much of a factor, whether you're at university and guys are on scholarships, or that whole thing, or guys are in the league and they have guaranteed money, or what it will whatever it may be. But I totally agree with you about you'll never kind of play the type of football that you will in high school football, and those memories that you have with your teammates and some of those coaches that even will kind of make an impression on you, and kind of you guys will always have a connection for a lifelong connection. So I'm curious now, you obviously had a lot of success in high school up here. What went into your decision to ultimately decide to go down south? And I would imagine it was to obviously, um I guess we'd probably hate saying it, but playing high school football in Canada, if you're trying to go pro, if you're trying to go to the NFL, or even if you are trying to go the CFL, it's not, it doesn't give you maybe the best opportunity. I feel like maybe that was kind of what you were looking for, is maybe just a better opportunity. But just take us what went into that decision. I believe you ended up somewhere in Tennessee. Was there any other schools that you looked at, that sort of thing? Just take us through that whole process of looking to go down south to play football somewhere in high school.
Yeah, that was all Coach Vic. I mean, he's like Mikey. Like, it's the way I think the way he kind of put it, and I think it still makes sense to this day, is like, it's one thing if you're an O lineman or a D lineman, a college can come up to Canada, and then they see someone like 6'5", 320, and he runs like a 4.9. Like, that's pretty much, if you see that, like, scholarship right away type deal. But with the skill position, especially QB, but I'd say, receiver, DB, and then linebacker, running back as well, it's a little bit more than that. So I think he's basically like, Mikey, like, you got to go down south. It's just what you got to do. And I was like, all right, let's do it. And I was just very excited. And I don't even know how he pulled that one off, but he's like, okay, I got your school in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And I'm like, great. And like, that was it. And yeah, like I say, I'm really grateful for Coach Vic, but yeah, high school football in the States is just different, man. I remember like our first game when I was in Tennessee, it was like 4,000 people. And I was like, wait, this is a high school stadium that can fit 4,000 people? What? And then also when I was, it's called Baylor in Chattanooga, Baylor School. And they're part of like the biggest high school rivalry in the state of Tennessee, against Macaulay, which is like the school across town or whatever. And 14,000 people. Like, it's so much people, you had to play it in the university stadium, at UTC's stadium. But I was like, I'm a kid from Canada, like, the most I've played in front of is maybe like 200 people, 300 people maybe. And then my first high school game is 4,000, and then in a rivalry game is 14,000. I'm like, when they say faith, family, and football in the South, they're really, that's what it is. It's faith. They're very religious. Is football 24/7, and then family. They the families are really important to them. But that's the South, literally. But yeah, it was awesome.
So I'm curious, Mike, that was your first experience. I guess maybe you had some prior experience going down with like camps and that sort of thing, but
Oh,
maybe
okay, yeah, that's
you,
right.
your first experience with being uh like permanent down there, did you feel the need to maybe have to like prove yourself at all because you were Canadian, going down there, maybe guys looking at you? I would imagine you kind of like you earned the starting job, but you were the starting quarterback right away. Did you feel like guys were maybe looking at you, whether that was on your own team or even guys that you were playing against? Did you feel like maybe guys like maybe underestimated you or even looked over you because you were like to say like Canadian?
I'm sure that probably happened. I didn't really experience it as much, but I mean, I know because when I had first went to high school in Tennessee, I already had an offer from Michigan State. So that's kind of like, that was like a really big deal. And like down there, it's kind of like, I don't know, that's kind of something that everyone would kind of know, if that makes sense, or everyone would kind of be alert to it. And so I guess everyone was kind of holding me to a higher standard or expecting the best because, I had all this accolade. So I think it was more to do with the fact that I was already like being recruited by some D1 schools versus the fact that I was Canadian, but definitely there was definitely like a spotlight on me for sure, and people just wanted to see like, all right, what's this kid about, you know?
Right, that makes sense, man. That totally makes sense, especially with a little. It kind of, it's like a little bit. You came with a little bit of cachet, a little bit of credit to your name with like an offer like that. So I'm curious. You said you enjoyed your time in Tennessee. You had
Oh yeah.
4,000 people at your games, 14,000 at rivalry games. What take us maybe through that off season going into your senior year? What ended up taking you to another school and just I guess just pursuing football even more? What happened your junior year going into your senior year off season?
Yeah, that was Coach Vic again. He said, Mikey, you got to go get a quarterback coach down there. You got to get working on your game in the offseason. I said, okay, coach. So we end up going out to IMG. Chris Wenke, who was the coach there at the time, QB coach at the time there, he would be training like getting guys ready for the combine. You know, so like I think Geno Smith, Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, were a couple of the quarterbacks that he was getting ready for the pros, and so I'm like, hey, I'll go train with Coach Wenke and do that, right? So I go down, do a day or two of training there, and then he's like, hey, Mikey, we're starting a football program here next year for the first team ever. Would you want to come be the quarterback? And then I'm looking at that and I'm like, I get to work with Coach Wenke full time and get to just basically go to school like and play football. Well, we did school as well, but you know what those schools are like. It's really like 3 hours of school a day and the rest is football. Yeah, I was like, sign me up. So, but again, like that was my parents because they supported me too. It wasn't like full scholarship or anything, but they definitely helped out with that. And like I said, without their support, I'm not here either. But yeah, that was Coach Vic just saying, you got to go get a coach. So okay, I went to get some training, and then he's like, we're starting a football team. And I was like, I can't pass this up, you know? And that's kind of how that happened.
Man, shout out to Coach V on that one, man. But
But you get what I'm saying? No, it's like people don't really realize, but he meant so much to me, you know? And
I've
it's just like we all like he really treat us like his kids, and I feel like that's something that we could use a little more in society today because I feel like a lot of parents, they put their kids first, and I understand that 100%. Like that's your child, like that's your everything. But we need to get to a place where like we're trying to raise good people, not just our own children. Like we gotta treat others like they're our kids, because when we do that, then we'll start to raise better people and make a better society. It's just because you really have the power to change the world, man. You do. You just gotta do it, and you just gotta care. So that's why, again, like I say, Coach Vic meant so much to me. And now I know what I can do for the next kids coming up.
Hell yeah, man. It's about kind of not about raising your own house, but raising good communities around you, right? It's not about just,
Communities,
yeah,
exactly.
it's
That's
not
what we
about,
losing these days.
yeah, it's not about just like your household. Obviously, your household is important to have a good foundation, but if your community around you, when obviously like you can't be around your kids every day if you're a parent or whatever, right? You have to trust that your community around you can kind of look after them and take care of them and guide them in the right direction, give them the right values, that sort of thing. So I can't agree more with you, man, about people need to realize about how important it is to not only care for their own like families, if you will, but the community around them and really growing the community around them. So really well said, really
Hmm.
really well said, man. So you end up taking your talents to IMG Academy for your senior year down in Florida. Now I'm curious because obviously I never went to an American high school or anything like that. So just my experience is playing high school football with, I don't know if I ever played in front of 200 people. I maybe played in front of like 70 people max. I guess maybe there was a few days they let the school out early and they watch, but as soon as the bell rings, everybody leaves. So it's so different in Canada, and I'm sure you understand that. I'm curious now. I'm sure you've seen that kind of that it was, I believe it was Bleacher Report that posted a video of IMG Academy. It was kind of like a maybe like a hype video. It was like maybe 9 or 10 minutes long about like the prospects there and all that sort of things. I'm curious, when you went to IMG, was that kind of the same IMG that you experienced with like the facilities and the coaches and that sort of thing, and even like the prospects and that whole thing?
No, it was way different because it was just starting. So we were in trailers, like literally the locker room was like a trailer. Um, and I'm not saying that as like, oh, like poor us, we were going IMG, God, we were blessed. I'm just saying it as like
No,
compared to
totally.
what people think of it as today. Like, no, so they were building all that stuff. Like it was literally under construction while we were there. Um, and then the team, it was a lot of Canadians on the team actually because they weren't recruiting like they kind of recruit now. And like they got the one team where, well, kind of, I don't want to be a little bit too savage, but basically they got like the like the team of ballers now, and then they have like the team that pays for the ballers to go there.
Got you.
The team that kind of pays their way to go to IMG, and then like that money supports the actual team that everyone sees. But anyways,
Right.
before it was just one team, and I think they were relying a lot on like Canadians to come in. Uh, I don't quite know why. Like they wouldn't just get Americans or like players from Florida, but to be honest, I don't. I just know there was like a lot of us Canadians on that first team. Um, but yeah, everything was getting built still, and there wasn't there. It wasn't like now how there's like 20 D1 players or something. There was a couple of us, but it still was an awesome time and met a lot of cool people, great experiences. So I wouldn't trade it for the world.
And getting to work with somebody that you were building a relationship. Chris Wanke, I believe you mentioned someone that kind of had experience working around guys, and you'd be able to kind of build a relationship, work with him every day. So I'm sure you really gained some valuable lessons and some things from him. So you have a fairly successful season. I believe you guys finished like 8-2 or something like that season. You had some pretty good stats. How was your recruiting process after your senior year? What was kind of your whole mentality of maybe did you have any favorites? Maybe where did you go visit? That whole thing. Just take us through your whole recruiting process after your senior year.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's like the same. I don't know. It could be a lot different now because of the NIL and everything like that. But when I was getting recruited, it was pretty common for people to commit between junior and senior year because if you kind of waited too long, then like the positions get filled, and like it's kind of a known thing like that. Like the summer between junior and senior year, that's when you should kind of pick. At least that was my experience. I don't know if that was most kids or not, but anyways, so I actually had committed to Penn State prior to the IMG season, so I kind of already that was all kind of already figured out, which was nice. Nice just to have that kind of not having to worry about that while you're playing your final year of high school ball, just kind of having that settled. So yeah, that's kind of how that worked. But yeah, it's crazy the way I see it. It's always like enjoy the recruitment process if you ever get recruited because it's a bunch of guys like asking the girl to the dance, and so you can just kind of enjoy, get pampered a little bit. That's all good. That's okay. That's how it is. Just enjoy it because as soon as you step on campus, it's the other way around now, or it's more so like they got your signature and then it's a wrap for that. But yeah, enjoy the process, man, for sure.
So you end up committing to Penn State. I believe a big reason was because Coach Bill O'Brien. Take us a little bit into that process. Why did you choose Penn State? What was it? What was that connection with Bill O'Brien? What other teams maybe were you considering really choosing for real? Just take us through that.
Yeah, I think Penn State. was the the first thing I'd say is like Coach O'Brien for sure. Seeing what he had done with Matt Mc, I don't know. Do you remember Matt McGloin?
Not too
Oh
much.
no. Okay. Well, he was basically, you know how the whole Sandusky thing happened, right?
Yeah.
And that was pretty much right before O'Brien got there. So they were like desolate in scholarships. So Matt McGloin, who was a walk on, like a short kind of wouldn't look like an athlete if you saw him on the street type deal. He took this guy and basically turned him into an NFL quarterback, and he had like a 5 6 year NFL career. But he did really well at Penn State with Coach O'Brien. And I'm like, dang, if he can do that with Matt McGloin, like what could he do with like someone like me? That's kind of was my thought process. And then also like they did have only I think Hackenberg, remember Hackenberg?
Yeah.
So he was the only QB on scholarship at the time when I committed. So it was just me and Hack there, the only two QB on scholarship. So that was kind of being like, oh, that'd be better than being like seventh or eighth on the depth chart, kind of going to a power five and already being like in the top two, top three. That's kind of pretty that you don't get that a lot, right? And then finally, I'd say it felt like home. I can't explain it, but you take a couple visits to here, to there, and then when I visited Penn State, it was just like, oh, this what I've been looking for, or this home. And it's just a feeling you get, and that's just a feeling I got. And then, like ever since I had that feeling, I'm like, hey, I know what I'm gonna do. And I'd say Michigan State too was the other school I was looking at heavy for sure. And Syracuse as well. So I'm from Ottawa, and Syracuse is just 2 hours south. So I was like, man, that could be like the hometown school, considered it, be close to home and whatnot. But no, yeah, that was it.
So overall, you end up, Coach Bill O'Brien ends up going to the NFL. A new regime is kind of
Mm.
brought in. A few other quarterbacks arrive, or maybe just one other quarterback arrives. I believe McSorley or whatever. Uh, Now for some, like I said, for someone that was a Canadian kid, played high school football in Canada, watching football on Saturdays every once in a while, watching college games, seeing what it's like at Beaver Stadium for those whiteout games. What was your overall experience in your 1 year at Penn State? What was it like for those games, those atmospheres of I believe the capacity is like 106,000 or something like that. So what was overall just your experience at Penn State? How was that being around the football team, around a Power Five uh, place like that?
Yeah, it was a whirlwind there. I mean, they treat a football player like royalty out there. Um, so yeah, it was a lot of fun. But I remember when I was there for the whiteout game, I think Ohio State came to Beaver Stadium and they were ranked three in the country, I think, and we were unranked at the time. And then we took them to overtime, and like, oh my God, I couldn't believe it. Like, because everyone was expected, like, Ohio State probably win pretty easily. But that's also the thing about the whiteout game. It's like, man, throw the records out the door because that place is rocking. But yeah, I don't know. I remember it went to overtime, and I never heard it so loud, somewhere so loud in my life. Honestly, it's really cool to experience. I wish more people get to experience that thing. That's the sad thing about Canada is like, not only do a lot of people not get to experience like what I did, but they don't even know it exists. That's what's even worse. But anyways, yeah, we ended up losing that game in the overtime, but I'll always remember, yeah, the place was jumping. It was actually Joey Bosa. He sacked Hackenberg, to finish the game off. But yeah, just cool, man. Just a lot of cool, really looking back on it.
It is cool, man. For someone that lives in a town of about 100,000 people, it's crazy to think that like
Mm.
football stadiums pretty much have my entire city in one stadium cheering and watching football. So for me, that's super cool. It's definitely a bucket list thing. Coworker of mine in October, I believe, flew down to Ohio State, got to watch an Ohio State game in Ohio State. So definitely on the football fan bucket list of myself. And I think if you're a football fan, definitely you want to check out some college football down south, man, because those atmospheres, some of those schools that you can go watch, the Michigans, that sort of thing, man. I feel like it's just it's
Oh yeah.
it's I don't want to say it's better than the NFL because I'm a big NFL guy. I
Oh, it
love the
is
NFL.
better than the NFL though.
Yeah, no,
100%.
I totally I see I always get that point. Personally, I struggle to really connect with college football more than the casual level of just like kind of paying attention when like the playoffs start, just because I feel like it changes so much. So personally, I'm a big
I
NFL
see
guy.
what you mean.
Personally, I'm a big NFL guy, but I really think the like the young and like the hungriness of the guys in college football, the guys that
Oh, for sure.
like you haven't made it, right? So you're trying to like you're still not that guys like when you get pro or kind of let their foot off the gas a little bit, but like
Oh, but it's different for sure.
yeah, it's different, man. And then like the atmospheres of those stadiums, and you don't have any NFL stadiums that are having 100,000 packed in
Mm.
there with the bands playing and the student section,
The
and
bands, yeah, it's the atmosphere. Like you
it's
can't
that
beat a.
it's
If
the
you're going
atmosphere.
to a game in person, like go to a college game, you know, that's what I would say. Because like I've been to college games. Oh, I like I'll tell you a story later, but I've been to college games and NFL games, and I would say hands down it's college. Not even close. Like the NFL game, it felt like if you were to go watch like say an NHL game, anything up here like MLB game or something like that, NBA game, it just feels like, oh, I'm going to watch a pro sport. But when you go to a college game, it's like you just get it just sucks you in, man. It's hard to explain, but it just sucks you in. And it's like the atmosphere is you can't beat it. But when I was in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I was getting recruited by Alabama, and they were at the time like undefeated. I think and this would have been back. This was back before the playoff, so it was only like the top two teams made the national championship. So it wasn't like you know what I'm saying. But anyways, I had went to a game as a recruit, and it was Alabama versus Texas A&M when Johnny Manziel was at A&M, and it's I don't know if you remember this game. I'll always remember because I was there, and it was crazy. But it's the game that Manziel beat Alabama in Alabama, and I remember like leaving the stadium and like everywhere I look, there's people crying. Like I'm not talking like tear, I'm talking like crying, crying. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is what it's like here. But it's because they thought literally their playoffs were hopes were done. Because remember, it was back in the day, only the top two teams made it. I think they ended up still making it, and that's the year they beat Notre Dame and Manti Te'o with McCarron, right? But I'm just like that goes to show you like that's what college football all about, you know, stuff like that. And that's you just don't get that in the pros. And like you were saying earlier too about high school football and how you think it's like the purest form, like that's kind of why I would prefer college over NFL, even though college has been for a while, even before they started the NIL and everything, but it's kind of been like a business too, let's be honest. But you can at least maintain the illusion of, oh, they're in it for the love of the game. But at the same time, I do believe they're in it for the love of the game because like they play for their brothers. When you watch college football, they really play for their brothers because and something you again you probably wouldn't understand if you never like been to a D1 school, but it's like you suffer in the off-season workouts. I mean, suffer like some of the most pain I've ever been in, and I'm talking about yeah, just hard to explain. But when you go through that with somebody, you that relationship it changes. It's like that's my brother now. Cause the way you get a real brother, it's like you gotta go through some shit. If life's always good and good, it's like you'll have friends, but your true friends is the friends that you go through hell with and you come out on the other side. And that's what you get watching college football because those players been through hell. You know, I know exactly what they've been through, but now they're back on the other side with those same brothers they done went through hell with, and now they're trying to go take it to another team. You know, that's what I'm trying to get across about college football. It's just it's different, you know?
Absolutely, man. When you go through tough times together and you guys get out on top, you can kind of, you can trust your brother that he's going to be there. It's like a big thing in football, right? Like you got to trust your guy to the right or
You
to the
don't want to
left
let
of
them
you, right?
down.
Yeah,
You
and
don't
I
want to
feel
let them down.
in
Exactly.
in off-season training, right? When you're going through those hell, when you're if you're puking or whatever, you're dry heaving, you're really struggling of a conditioning test or what have you, and you look right and you look left and your brothers are there with you and they're like, come on, let's go, another rep, right? It's like, okay, I can't let them down, right? I can't take this rep
Hmm.
off because they're not taking this rep off. So couldn't agree more
Exactly.
with what you're saying. So, uh, I'm curious now, what went into the decision of ultimately deciding to leave Penn State? I guess maybe I'll just let you tell it. What went into your
Oh,
decision
for sure.
to leave Penn State, and then what schools did you have in mind, and then why did you end up settling where you did?
Yeah, I'd say definitely it was kind of tough decision. Like, so when I was when I was I was early enrollee to Penn State, so maybe like 5 days before I was set to get there, like I'm watching ESPN and on the bottom of the screen I see it says like Coach Frank or Coach O'Brien leaves Penn State, takes a head coaching job with the Houston Texans, and like this 5 days before I'm set to get to campus, so I'm like, what do I do now? You know, so I guess it was kind of like a rush decision. But at the same time, that really just is an excuse because Coach Vic always say like it don't matter the coach, it don't matter this that you got to be able to adapt, you know. And I just wasn't able to adapt, to put it honestly. Um, so I was thinking between UBC, UConn, and South Florida were the schools I was looking at, and ultimately I figured out like when you're getting recruited, coaches say too like this isn't a 4 year decision, it's a 40 year decision. So that was something that definitely went into my thought process. It's like I want to be able to kind of go somewhere, put some roots down, get a great degree and be able to play right away. That's something else too. The young cats these days don't know, like you have to sit out a year when you transfer back in the day, but now you can play right away. But if I were to transfer to UBC, I could play right away as opposed to having to sit out, you know. And great business school, just a lot of support and being able to learn the Canadian game too. So that would be help for the CFL, and just a lot of thoughts went into it, but that's ultimately where my decisions, you know.
So you end up choosing the beautiful West Coast, my province that I'm born and raised from. I love British Columbia. I'm curious, what kind of I believe before you took a visit out here, you had never been out to the West Coast. What kind of attracted you to Vancouver? I believe Blake Nill, that was Blake Nill's first season with UBC, so you would have been in his first recruiting class, if I'm not mistaken. What just kind of attracted you to Vancouver, I guess, and UBC football?
Yeah, I'd say, I mean, it's just so beautiful out here. The combination of the ocean and the mountain, I don't think is something you get anywhere else in the world almost. And then take into account also the more modest winters and being able to train outside year round. That's love that. And just the beautiful nature too. And I don't know, just very peaceful, very laid back. I love that. And then yeah, like Coach Nil, he's basically saying like, look, you get the chance to come in and change this program from the ground up, and be part of that process. And I'm like, that's kind of a challenge for sure, because I think the team was 0-8 the year prior or something like that. And I was like, that's definitely a challenge, but I'm looking forward to it. And sure enough, 1 year, it's a big turnaround for sure. But no, I really look forward to that.
So you come to UBC. As a football fan at the time, I was going into my senior year of high school. Never been to a UBC game in person, but obviously follow U Sports. I believe you played with a few guys that I'm familiar with. Marshall Cook being one of them.
Oh,
I
Marshall.
Yeah, I played against like guys like Marcus, some of the guys from the
Oh,
island.
Marcus.
Uh,
He's awesome.
Ben Cummings, a few guys around
Oh, Ben. Oh, yeah.
BC high school football. So I'd kind of seen that there was some big news of you coming to UBC, being so highly touted. I remember that preseason, if I'm not mistaken, you guys travel all the way over to Laval. I believe you guys I believe you guys
Oh
beat
yeah,
Laval
that's
in
right.
Laval. Um, a very storied franchise in U Sports. I believe they had won maybe like 3 or 4 Vanier Cups previous or something like that. They had definitely been there. Um, you guys go through that season, your first season playing in U Sports, your first season at UBC. You ultimately cap it off with a Vanier Cup. How I guess maybe like rewarding, how much fun, wherever you want to take this, how good did that year make you feel with just kind of coming back to Canada, really maybe reassuring that you made the right decision. I can really succeed here. If coaches really they can come and find me here no matter where I am, if I am in Canada, right? If the tape is good enough, if I'm winning, if I'm succeeding, they'll find me and be able to give me an opportunity. So just how much fun or how rewarding was that first year at UBC?
Oh yeah, it was amazing. Like I remember early on, during the summer workouts, there was one of the parents, or one of the players' parents were there, and I said something like, I was a little crazy back then, but I said something like, "Oh, I'm looking forward to getting your son a ring," and then like she kind of laughed at me, and like thinking like, yeah, right, like that's even possible, and I kind of always remembered that, and that's something I always kind of use, like just trying to prove people wrong. But the older I get, to be honest with you, the more that I'm starting to realize you can't use anger as your primary source of motivation. It's got to be love. Now, I know that sounds really corny,
No.
but that's what I've discovered. It's got to be it's you got to come from a place of love. It can't be from a place of, oh, I'm gonna prove all these people wrong, or oh, I'm so angry at the world, or oh, this and that, or oh, I've been slighted. Or, no, it's got to be like I love you, like I love the game, and I love my life, and this is something I get to do every day as a blessing. Like that, I think, is what the great ones have, you know, not just the chip on the shoulder. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely. That's really well put, Mike. So
Yeah, no, so that was it. Yeah, basically, it was definitely just had that, like I say, the chip on the shoulder was really big that year. And we had, well, I would say Calgary that year was, so after we beat Laval, our week 1 game was against Calgary. They beat us 41-6 or something crazy, because we all thought we were the shit after beating Laval. And it's like the universe works in funny ways, man. It'll humble you really quickly. And it humbled us. It really did. And we said all year though, like, oh, we'll see him again. We'll see him again. And that was the best. And I'm not saying this to be exaggerated, but I'm being honest with you. Like it was the best CIS football team of all time was Calgary that year. I think 14 or 15 of their starters on O&D went on to the CFL. So like over half
yeah.
of their starters went to play in the pros, and then we beat them in the Hardy Cup, and yeah, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. I think that's one. Yeah, definitely you remember that one, and then you remember the Vanier too. I think that all Vanier Cup should be played in Laval, and I'm very fortunate that ours was, because that's an atmosphere that's like 18,000 or something crazy, but it just kind of felt like a championship game, like just a great atmosphere, and it makes me sad when like they play the Vanier somewhere else, especially in CFL Stadium, and to see just a couple thousand sprinkled in the stands, even less, it kind of takes away from the game, I think. So I would definitely, if I was in the U Sport right now, I'd say that until another program can replicate the atmosphere that the Val can, every Vanier Cup should be there. What do you think of that?
I agree, man. I agree. I went to
Uh,
funny enough, 2011, I believe I was in grade 9 or something like that. My friend's grandpa had season tickets to the Lions and had gotten first access to the Vanier Cup when it was here. I believe that was McMaster and Laval. So
oh wow.
I had actually gotten to go to that game. That was the Kyle Quinlan hurdle.
The hurdle, yeah.
Yeah, the hurdle game, and they
Field
kicked
goal too, right?
the walk-off
Oh,
field
he
goal.
missed it right earlier, but then he
Yeah,
made it.
yeah. So that is my only U Sports game that I've ever been to, and
Oh, okay.
it was a Vanier
That's a
Cup.
good one too.
That was a
That's a
pretty
good
cool
one.
one. But
Yeah.
what you said, the whole, as you know, playing in BC Place, the whole upper deck wasn't available. There was no tickets sold. Even the lower bowl was kind of just like a regular home game. Sorry, it wasn't even like a regular home game. It was probably um 4,000 fans or something like that. It wasn't nothing crazy. So I agree with you. I believe it's in Queens this next few years. I believe, if I'm not
Oh,
mistaken.
okay. Nice.
I saw that they put something online or something like that, and I believe they have a nice facility set up there. So um moving forward, getting into the championship or the Vanier Cup game. What was that experience like for you? You touched on a little bit there about the atmosphere that you played in. I believe you were the MVP of the game. What was just that whole maybe just the feeling of when the final whistle went, when you guys won, when you realized that you were a national champion, celebrating with your team, kind of maybe the flight home. How was that whole championship game experience like for you?
Oh yeah, it was crazy. I mean, I think that all year we kept getting better all year, especially because we had never played with each other before. So the chemistry kept getting better, and I think we just hit our peak in that Vanier Cup, and it was just like when you see when you see good football played, it's hard to watch bad football and just kind of not be upset. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but like when you see good football, it's so pretty. It's like poetry. Um, and that's I think that's where we were on the cusp of that Venue Cup is making poetry out there. I know that sounds really corny, but it was special like that. It was special like that for sure. And we had a lot of good poetic ending, with we were about to kick the field goal with I think 49 seconds or a minute left, and we missed the snap, and then 2 plays later we get an interception, and then we end up kicking the game winner. So it's poetic like that, football is pretty cool like that. But I remember winning. The way I will explain it, I wish it was different, but again, I was a little different back then, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it like I wish I would have, because I was just worried about what's next. Whereas the seniors that won, especially because they had to go through like the years of 0-8, 1-7, 2-6, whatever. Like you could tell how much it meant to them, you know. And I wish, and part of me wishes like it would have been my 4th year that we did it, because then I would have enjoyed it way much more. Because when you win as a rookie, you're just like, okay, when's the next one coming? Well, the next one never came, and that's a travesty, and that's devastation. Uh, and now it's unacceptable ultimately for our team for those next 3 years. Unacceptable not to get back. But yeah, I wish I would have enjoyed it more because it was the only one.
That's interesting to hear, man. You always hear about like guys maybe mic'd up in the NFL or whatever, but when they get to the Super Bowl or whatever their rookie year, and they're like, man, this is crazy. Like this is crazy. I can't believe I got here my rookie year, and then like you play out your career and you realize, man, I never got back, and
Never got back.
it's
Yep.
like how grateful you should be. Like win or lose, obviously as competitors, you never want to lose in that situation. You want to come out on top, but win or lose, you should probably just be grateful, because maybe not everybody has that opportunity to play in that type of game. So you touched on a little
Oh
bit
yeah.
there. You said it was unacceptable to not get back to the Vanier Cup. When I was doing some research from afar, obviously I had followed you guys, but I didn't realize that how the 2 seasons had finished. So going into 16 and 17 back-to-back years following the Vanier Cup win, you guys had gotten eliminated both years by Calgary by a combined 4 points, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I believe the first year, not sorry to bring up
Yeah.
bad
Oh, no
memories
doubt, man.
or
It's the kick. It's the kick for sure. The kick
yes,
one. The kick haunts me still. But
So
that's
yeah,
ball, right?
Mike,
That's
I can
ball.
tell you're excited. So take us through those two tough losses, whatever comes to your mind for those two unfortunate losses to the University of Calgary.
I'd say in 16, that one, that was great because 15 was the Vanier, but that Hardy Cup in 15 was, like I say, that was the best Calgary team, best U Sport team in history. So 16, it was definitely kind of carrying on that rivalry, and it was just a good football game. Like obviously, it's easy to look back and say we could have done this, could have done that, but it was a great game. They ended up winning by 3. That's how it goes. But 17 is the one that really gets to me because yeah, we were down like 6 points with a minute left or minute 30 or something. And we ended up driving the field, getting the touchdown with 20 seconds left, and we were all celebrating, and that's another lesson I learned then is like, why are you celebrating? There's still time on the clock, like just making us look like fools. But anyways, we're celebrating like we had just won the game, and then they end up kicking like the longest field goal in U Sport history, like 59-yarder, as time expired to win it. And yeah, that's the one I think about more than the Vanier Cup, like when I look back. And maybe that's just like me being perfectionist or
That's like
me just being too hard, but
competitor in you.
competitor, yeah. You just think about the you just think about the losses way more than the wins, and that's something that I'm trying to be better in life though, because I think that kind of correlates with life. Like you can focus on what you don't have, or you can focus on what you're lacking, or you can focus on what you have and all your blessings. It kind of goes with football and like focusing on the losses instead of focusing on the championship. So I feel like that's something I'm working on in life too, is to try and focus on all the blessings I have and not necessarily um, the opposite, you know?
It's like I forget that saying. I believe it's I hate losing more than I like
I
winning,
love winning. Yeah.
yeah. So
I hate losing more than I love winning. Yeah.
it's definitely a I agree with you in that sentiment. But moving forward, you get into your final year, I guess your draft eligible year at UBC. You conclude your career at UBC, unfortunately not being able to get back to a Vanier Cup like you said, but you walk away with at least one in your career. How do you overall look back at your time at UBC? I'm not sure if this is the right question to ask you, but do you regret it all? Do you think that you made the right decision? Just take us through how you really feel looking back at your career at UBC now.
Yeah, I would say honestly, mostly disappointment that we only got to one Vanier Cup. But like I say, it's all in the framing. If it was the fourth year, maybe I would have had a different perspective on my career. That because it was the first, it's just how I see it. It's like did like unaccept there's like a just disappointment, honestly, that it was only one. And I know that may sound like to someone who never won like a Vanier Cup at all, listening to that, it made sound kind of like, oh, that's very rich of you to say, but that's just how I feel, honestly. Um, and then looking back to on my decision to come to UBC, like I'm really grateful for the relationship I made and and just being able to live out in this beautiful city and all that. But I definitely wish I would have kind of stuck through at Penn State a little bit in the sense of like when you face adversity, like you gotta run right through it. You can't just run away because what are you gonna do for your whole life? Just keep running away and run away. At some point, it's gonna catch up to you. At some point, you're gonna have to face it. So I think a little bit. That's kind of how I think about that a little bit. Is like maybe I took the easy way, you know, instead of facing like some trials and tribulation, which we all will at some point in life. So that's some things I think about. But like I'm happy where I am now, and I'm blessed beyond measure, based on just my experience when I look at it as a whole. So like I say, you got to focus on the good. You got to focus on the good because if not, then you can definitely go down a dark road and let that eat you up. But like I say, I focus on the blessing every day.
Yeah, man. The big guy upstairs has a plan for us all, and we just gotta kind of believe in his plan, if you will. So I get the sense that you were a very having traveled away from home at an early age. I get the sense that you were maybe a little bit of a mature young man, a mature young older teenager, whatever you want to call it. When did you kind of start to realize or maybe start to process that you wanted to, and maybe this is started at an early age, but when did you start to process that you wanted to play pro football, you were able to pro football? Just take us through that time of finishing up at UBC and then kind of really getting ready to turn into a professional quarterback, and what went into maybe your off-season training. I know you held I believe a pro day at UBC, some NFL teams in attendance, some CFL teams in attendance. What was kind of your whole mindset at that time of, I just finished up my collegiate career and now I'm going to enter into hopefully my professional career?
Yeah, I wanted to play as a professional for my like ever since I can remember. It's kind of like if well, I wouldn't say that I wanted to be a professional. I would say like I love the game of football. Like it's my first love and I'll always love it, you know. And that's part of too is like kind of with the SFU thing and the state of kind of community football now and with less people playing, like it really breaks my heart because what about the kid that's like who I was when I was six, but who didn't have the opportunity because of like what we talked about before, the community. You got to build up your community. So you give these kids opportunity. You know, that's what breaks my heart the most is how many Michael O'Connors are out there that just never got Coach Vic or never had a community supporting them through football. And that's why I'm preach so much about giving back because we have to, man. We really have to. Um, sorry, I lost where I was going there, but does that make sense though? Do you think?
Absolutely it does, man. Absolutely it does. But you were touching on your point, turning pro, I guess, your process of
Oh, okay, yeah, that's right.
um
That's right.
what did you I guess, like, were you in contact with some of these NFL teams? Like, how did the pro day kind of happen? Does that is that like, that doesn't really happen and teams just kind of show up? Was that kind of out of your control? What was going on through that process?
Yeah, so I did actually was kind of cool. I went back to IMG to train for the combine, and all the coaches were gone actually, except for the one Coach Adam, who he was kind of the QB coach along with Coach Wenke when I was there earlier. So it was really cool to go back. What that been? I guess 5 years later, and get to work with Coach Adam and catch up and get ready and all that. So that was really cool. And then the pro day, yeah, just talking with my agent, saying letting the teams know and to come watch or whatever, and then just, I mean, it's an experience, It's something that I can't remember saying. I mean, you only do this once, so enjoy it. Like, no, that's how I remember it. I was like, I remember in the recruiting process when I was getting recruited to all these schools, I didn't really take the time to like soak it in and enjoy it. I was so worried about, oh, where am I going to go? Or I'll help this team offers it. But like, no, I should have just been soaking it in, enjoying it. And that's kind of the perspective I take with like the pro day and getting ready. That off season, everything. I'm like, just enjoy it, man. Like everything will work out. Just enjoy it. You'll only do it once. So yeah, I was just having fun.
It sounds like, and that's, I feel like that's kind of, you're like living out your dream, right? That's such a good mentality to have in that process, right? Just kind of maybe takes a little bit of pressure off your shoulders and kind of just really enjoy the whole process, soak it all in, right? Like we touched on, the big guy upstairs has a plan, so just trust in the process and everything will kind of turn out for the best. So take me through, for someone that like yourself, ever since I was a little kid, when you'd have those sheets at school of what you wanted to be when you were an adult or whatever, I'm sure like myself, you'd put like NFL quarterback or whatever. take me through what it was like to get the call on draft day 2019, like I touched on. I believe it was third round, 20th overall from the Toronto Argonauts. What was that phone call like? Getting the news that you were going to be a professional quarterback.
Yeah, so that's another crazy story. So I had gotten an invite to Seattle Seahawks rookie minicamp, and the first day of the minicamp is during the CFL draft. So like I think I was in like a team meeting with the Seahawks
Ooh.
when I actually got the call, but obviously my phone was off. I'm not having my phone in the meeting, obviously, but yeah, my phone was off, so like I didn't even get the call. So I don't know that like what I have enjoyed to like be back home with my friends and family and celebrating that, of course, but it just like I say, the universe works in mysterious ways sometimes. I truly believe that. But yeah, so I was in down in Seattle, trying to get on with them, and I remember getting back to the hotel that night after practice, and I took my phone and I turned my phone on, and like the first thing I see is Cole, my buddy from playing at UBC, and he's like Argos, all capital with a bunch of exclamation marks, and I was like, oh, I guess I got drafted to the Argos, and then I end up calling the coach back and just let him know like, sorry, I couldn't answer your call at the time, but I'm really excited. It was a weird ass time, because it's like you want to celebrate, you want to be excited, but like you also want to be focused on trying to make the NFL, which has been a lifelong dream as well, right? So it was kind of confusing, I would say, emotionally confusing time. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, I'm getting drafted into one league and trying out for another. Like, man, I'm blessed right now. This is cool. So yeah, that was awesome. But um, yeah, like I say, it only happens once, so gotta enjoy it.
Super cool story, man. Really cool. Like I said, for someone that hasn't been able to experience something like that, man. And that's like I said at the beginning of the podcast. This is why I really wanted to have you on and kind of get your perspective, hear about kind of some of these cool stories, and really share kind of your journey throughout your football career. So, um, how was overall your rookie year? You obviously don't end up starting for the Argos, but being a professional quarterback, living that lifestyle, how was your experience in your rookie year?
That was great. I mean, I was living. I've got a place right next to BMO Stadium, pretty close by. If you know Toronto, I don't know, but Liberty Village. So I just kind of walk underneath the train set and get right to the facility. So that was nice, just being able to, walk to work every day, I think was a blessing. And then just being able to just dive into the offense and studying and learning and all that. And living in Toronto, like man, I love Toronto. I'm grateful that I had that experience because it's just there's always something happening in Toronto. You know what I'm saying? So it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then also, yeah, I'd say just studying, man, and just learning, keep working, you know. But it's tough. We started the season 0-7, I think. And so I got definitely a little baptism by fire in the sense of like how you come into work Monday when you own 7, you know? Like I don't it's just oh, so this is the pros. Like obviously one side of that spectrum, right? It would be different if we were 7-0, like I'm sure. But it's like, man, how you come to work with a smile on your face and with a positive attitude and oh wait, but we're 0-7 and you gotta go to work the next day. It's like that's just part of being a pro. It's like win or lose. Doesn't matter how you feel in that day. Doesn't matter if you want to work out or not. Doesn't matter if you want to watch the film or not, or if you're 0-7 or 7-0. It's like you got work to do, you do it. It's like any other job, I think, in the sense like that. Like it's work, but it's fun work, but it's still work. And some days you don't want to go to work, but do you have the option just not to show up to work? It's like no, you just got to push through it, and you always got to constantly remind yourself it's a blessing what I'm doing out here. It's a bless. Not many people get to experience this, but it's something that definitely come week 14, 15, 16, like it's something that you really got to remind yourself like, oh, that's a blessing because you kind of get into a little bit of like Groundhog Day, I feel like, especially in the CFL with 20-week season. It's like week 16. it's a grind. It really is a grind, honestly. But like I say, at the end of the day, you just gotta remind yourself, man, it's a blessing.
Absolutely, man. I couldn't imagine playing in little junior football seasons of 8 game seasons and having to like go to work and then come home and you got film and then you go to practice and then you have like meetings after. It's I couldn't imagine having to do that for 20 weeks, having your body be so sore of
Yeah,
kind of living those car crashes and all those things that you guys have to experience of some of those bigger collisions at that level. So I really couldn't imagine the just mental fatigue
mm.
and even like the body fatigue of a season that long. So
Oh yeah, mental for sure.
mental, man. So going into obviously the off season after that, 2020 happens and COVID, like
Oh,
everybody,
COVID, that's right.
throws a wrench into all of our plans. What was happening for you during that time? Were you stuck in Toronto, I would imagine? Were you back home when everything kind of shut
I
down
was
and
back in BC.
oh, you're back in BC. Okay. So
Yeah,
how was
yeah,
that process for you? Were you just trying to wait to train kind of thing and just waiting for an
yeah.
opportunity to kind of
I was training. Yeah, when it first started, yeah, I would still go into the field and stuff. Like I heard in Ontario, like they were trying to lock up the turf field, and I'm like, come on, man, like this is crazy. Like we're outside, and this too much. But anyways, yeah, in BC, like we were able to get on the field still, which was nice, and maybe not lift weights like you want, but still be able to run and throw. So that was cool. And then I was playing a lot of beach volleyball that summer too, like especially once the news came out, like the season canceled. I was like, well, all right. So then I kept training and did some beach volleyball. And actually, I was studying. I haven't got my degree, but I'm still working towards it. But I was studying to become a yoga teacher as well, just trying to pursue a little of my interests outside of football, which I never really got a chance to. And I'm not complaining about it. Like, I'd much rather be playing football, but I never really got a chance to explore some of my other interests, which would be like yoga for sure, something that I love, like just being able to um just like for mental well-being and mental health. I think we could all use a little bit of how would you say, a little bit of just breath work, is big. Just breathing and relaxing, that's big. So that's something that's important to me. And then also picked up a guitar and never always wanted to learn how to play the guitar and have this free time. So I'm like, hey, let me see what I can do. And YouTube's a hell of an app, right? So you can find about anything on there. So learned a couple songs, and I actually lost. I think if I were to pick up a guitar now, I'd have lost it though. So that's something that I want to get back into. Um, but it just goes to show you, man, if you don't practice, you lose it. And that's for everything in life. You just gotta constantly be on your P's and Q's.
super cool, man. Very productive COVID. Obviously picking up some new things, right? Not
Uh,
just staying in the house. That's cool to hear. During COVID, I kind of picked up golf and I really enjoyed
oh, nice.
that hobby. So it was kind of something for me to enjoy. That was kind of the first thing that kind of opened up was being able to go to golf courses and that thing. So um obviously it sounds like you were be able to stay productive during COVID. Your contract is I believe ends up being up with the Argos after that, and you end up signing with the Calgary Stampeders. What was it like to play for that kind of organization and culture with like Bo and then Dave and obviously Huff and all that sort of thing? What was it like being a Calgary Stampeder?
It was awesome. Like you say, from the top down, they're just very well run organization, very stable. Um, so that's kind of cool to experience, especially because Toronto's great too, and I love Toronto, and Pinball's the man. You know Pinball?
Yeah, oh
Yeah,
yeah.
he's awesome. Yeah, he's the man for sure. He really lives like that. And but anyways, yeah, just kind of cool seeing like the established tradition of Calgary being good year in and year out. Being a part of that was really cool. And just again, like another part of it is just like getting to live in Calgary for 6 months. It's like, man, I've gotten to live in Ottawa, Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary. Pennsylvania, Florida, Tennessee. I've just been had so much life experience, and I'm not even 28 yet. And it's like, how many 27-year-olds could say that? So that's another area that I try to remind myself that I'm really blessed in. But yeah, just kind of experience in Alberta, which is like, I used to think Alberta was just oil country. Like, I didn't realize how beautiful it was, how friendly the people were, how cheap it is, how much the sun is shining out there, the beautiful sunsets, going up to Banff, seeing the Banff Springs Hotel, um, which is beautiful. It's just like stuff like that. It's like, man, I wouldn't have got to do that before. So it's a blessing. But yeah, it was really cool playing with them and learned a lot from Bo and Coach Dave as well. And it's really interesting too, is picking up different playbooks and then seeing like, oh, okay, this is how this coach sees the game. This is how this coach sees the game. Neither one is right or wrong. It's just how they see the game. And then it's kind of like, I want to coach one day, because like I said, I love the game. But I think all coaches kind of pick and choose a little bit of what they like from each coach they've had prior. So I don't know. I feel really blessed in that aspect too, just to have been exposed to so many playbooks and to kind of see how many different ways that you can run an offense in Canada. Um, I think that's really cool.
That's a cool aspect. I never really thought about that. Like going from scheme to scheme. I always thought about it in like the challenging way, obviously, about learning a new scheme and what comes with that and how you have to kind of study that. And obviously if you don't, if like you're playing other positions than quarterback, maybe you can just, and maybe not at that level, but from what I've experienced, I guess maybe if you're like a receiver, maybe you just learn your position, right? If you're the quarterback, you have to learn all 12 positions, or if you're playing
Mm,
American, you have to learn all 11 positions, and
yeah.
you have to know what everybody's responsibilities are and all that sort of thing. So I always thought of it from the challenging aspect. So hearing it from your perspective of the interest in learning those systems and interest in learning how coaches think they can attack defenses and attack or maybe even to their strengths or whatever, how they like to play football. It's cool hearing it from
Mm.
that perspective. So
Oh yeah.
moving
It's a
forward,
lot to it's just like a lot of carryover between systems, but people just call things differently.
right.
Or like the West Coast offense receivers, you got a 12-yard in, I'm running a 12-yard in. I don't care who's standing there. I don't care if the middle of the field's open or closed. I'm getting 12 yards. I'm breaking down and I'm running in. Versus more of like Calgary, which is more like, okay, like a lot of more speed cut, a lot more less detail, but not in a bad way, more so in like it's a Canadian field, like it's a wider field, so go run the green grass, you know. And like I say, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just different ways to look at it. But so that was really cool to me, is kind of seeing like the West Coast system played in Canada, where it's like timing and footwork is everything. Receivers barely have any reads, all the way towards something a little more Canadian born, I'd say, a little more free flowing, where it's like, okay, we're gonna run to space. There's so much space, so instead of getting to 16 yards, putting your foot in the ground, breaking flat across, now we're gonna run a speed cut dig at 14. But hey, if the mic's carrying you now and you can't wrap the mic, now you've had the freedom to bang it back the way you came from. It's just interesting like that. I'm a kind of like a football nerd like that.
No, I love that, man. I'm loving hearing this. So I enjoy hearing and learning about things like this. So moving forward, 2022 season, you sign back in a familiar place, back somewhere that you know, back in Vancouver with the BC Lions last season. How excited were you to come back to a place that you're familiar with? You get to join forces with Nathan Rourke and form, in my memory, the only Canadian. I know Pip was there, and then VA ended up coming in, but for the most part, you guys were pretty much a all Canadian quarterback room. So how kind of excited were you to come in, join the Lions, a familiar place? You know all the lunch spots. You know kind of how Vancouver works as a city, that whole sort of thing, and then you get to work with somebody like Nathan. I believe kind of Rick gave you guys a little bit of confidence, saying, you know what, we believe in these guys. We don't have to bring in an American veteran or even just a veteran in general. We feel like we can go into the season with two Canadian quarterbacks and we can really do some good things. So how excited were you to join the Lions last year?
Oh yeah, really excited. I mean, like you say, coming back to BC where I played college football, I think that was really cool. Um, yeah, really special. And like being in a room with Nate, like you say, it's pretty cool kind of being able to I feel like it's something that more so maybe you'll reflect on the older
Later.
you get because when you're in it, you're just in it, you're not really thinking it like that. But even like with a year removed now, I definitely can see a little say now that like, oh, it's kind of cool, being in a room with Nathan and being the one and the two is, you know, really cool. But yeah, no, it was a great experience. Didn't work out how I would have wanted to, obviously, but like I say, that's football, and you gotta be able to grow, learn from your mistakes. You know, it's only a failure if you don't learn anything from it. So definitely think that, like I say, I'm grateful for it all, and looking forward to getting back on the field.
Absolutely. So just a couple more questions here, Mike, before we wrap things up and we'll get you out of here. I'm curious, um, from being able to witness Nathan firsthand, obviously going down south now, signing in the NFL and stuff like that. Maybe how much, and I feel like you're not one to lack self-confidence or anything like that, but maybe just how much more belief does that give you? And maybe even if you can speak to like other people that are watching this and maybe give a little bit of inspiration to kids that like they can play the quarterback position even if they are Canadian, right? I know that's maybe like a narrative, or maybe even is behind us a little bit now with recent guys like yourself, Trey Ford, Nathan. What do you just do you like? Did you get any more of like a little bit of more self belief with seeing Nathan go down there, being in a room, see like not to like speak for yourself, but I would imagine like Nate laces them up just like you do, right? Like I feel like you have the self-confidence not to be cocky or whatever, but like you feel like you could sling it with the best of them, right? Does Nate getting the opportunity give you any more belief in yourself that you can do it at that level? You can be one of the 50 best ball throwers in the world, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, definitely seeing what Nate's done. Like, I'm just so proud of him and his journey and his focus. That's the one thing he had. He had like really intense focus, and he's the same dude every day. Didn't matter if we won by 40, lost by 40, he's still showing up to work the exact same way the next day, and that's definitely an important trait to have. But yeah, the confidence, that's something that like you have to believe in yourself. That's why I tell the young kids, it's like you got to believe in yourself because no one's gonna do it for you, you know? Even though, like I say, Coach Vic definitely played a big part of my life, and maybe when times I was lacking in my own self-belief, he pushed me through it. So I think that's why from a young age, it's important we have those community role models. But once you get to the pros though, it's like, yeah, you gotta believe in yourself and because no one's gonna do it for you. And I had someone tell me this once, and I think it really makes the most sense. It's confidence comes from two things. It's one, knowing that you have the ability to do something, and then two, doing everything in your power to maximize that ability. So like something like that helps me out a lot is like I know that I'm a really good quarterback. I know I'm a great quarterback. I know I can sling the ball with the best of them because I can. Period. And the second part of that is, all right, did I do everything in my power so that when I step on the field, I can play absolutely free and not have doubts about, oh, maybe I didn't work hard enough this offseason, or maybe I should have done this or that. Like that's when the doubt creeps in, and that's when you start losing that confidence, and that's when you can start to tumble. But so that's why I always tell kids, it's like not everyone's going to play in the CFL, not everyone's going to play in the NFL. That's just a fact. I truly believe there's a place for everyone to play post-secondary football if they truly A, maintain their grades, B, work hard, C, is a good teammate. I believe there's a place for you to play post-secondary football, period. Um, but yeah, like I'm saying, not everyone has the natural gift to be play professional football, and that's no secret. That's just life. But if you do, well, even if you don't, I mean, it's just, and even if it's not football, it's something you should take in all life. It's like, did you do everything in your power to maximize your ability? And if you can truly say yes, and I mean deep down in your heart, and it's between you and you. That's it. If you can go deep down in your heart and say, yes, I did, then when you step on the field, it's so freeing because then you basically say, I did my part. Now it's up to the universe, you know,
You can
as
look
opposed to
yourself in the
just letting
mirror.
the doubt. Yeah, exactly. And that's something that I learned throughout my career. I think is what's most important is ultimately you got to live with you. You know, it's like you are the one that goes to bed with you every night. Like, you know what I'm saying? And so it's you that's got to
Those
be,
thoughts in your mind when you're like about to go to sleep, right? Those are
yeah,
like some of your like maybe like your deepest fears, or like maybe even
yeah,
like your conscious like talking to yourself.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. And you got to be able to live with you, you know, and that's something that I've definitely, it's not been easy for me for sure because I'm a perfectionist. I want to be perfect. But at the end of the day, I think what I've settled on is, you know, when my head hits the pillow at night, it's like, did I do everything I needed to do today to be great? And it's either yes or no. If it's yes, I'm probably having a good sleep, you know, and if it's no, then maybe I'm a little restless and whatnot. But you know, that's a big part of it. It's consistency is just trying to stack those days back to back, and then before you know it, you hit the field. You'll be feeling good. You'll mentally be feeling good, and when you're at the field like that, no one can stop you.
Yeah, really, really well said, Michael. So before I get to my last question here and we get you out of here, I just want to say, being a Lions fan from afar, it was quite the journey that you guys took us on as fans last year. Watching from afar, like it started early, like with guys like Nick and the media team covering. There's that little clip of you in Calgary in the preseason that's pretty pretty freaking legendary, if you ask me.
Oh, really? What's that one?
The one in the locker room pregame of don't fucking bleep this out.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that so
Oh, shoot. I forgot about that one.
so just from afar,
Well,
it was super fun watching you guys. You guys were exciting on the field. I think the narrative is like the watching you guys play and the celebrations that the receivers were having. It looked like the offense was really gelling and clicking together. From a Lions fan, it was super exciting watching you guys last year. I was actually in the building for your start against Saskatchewan. Unfortunately, you went down, but rooting for you, dude. So
no, thank you.
just wanted to say it was fun watching you guys last year play. But to close things out, I saw that you made an Instagram post. Obviously, we got the sad news about Simon Fraser University terminating their football team. Now, for someone that you didn't attend Simon Fraser University, you're a native of Ottawa, the opposite coast of BC. What was your first reaction of the news and just kind of your overall maybe just message and just opinion on the whole situation and how it was handled?
Yeah, I was just really sad. Sad for the players, especially because I'm training right now with a couple guys that play on SFU, and like they're like showing me the new playbook and telling me about you know, how practice is going, you know, and then we just went to throw yesterday and I'm like, man, I'm sorry to hear that. Like that's really shitty. And it kind of brings it home for you when you have a relationship with the people in the room, you know, it's not just a football team. It's someone I know and it makes it different and it makes it hurt a little more even, but it's devastating. And honestly, I just think that I think that the way we grew up, I can't speak on how you grew up, but the way I grew up and the influence that football had on my life and just making me a better human being is something that's in jeopardy right now. And I don't know if it's maybe social media or if it's kids are just not wanting to play because their parents don't want them to get concussions. maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe it's kids are just not playing sports in general because they're on their phones all day. Like I don't know what it is, but something is different now. And I feel like that's what I'm starting to realize. It's like you got to be the change that you want to see in the world. Like I used to think that's so corny, but it's true. And like, so I can't be here complaining about the level of youth community in BC and not be doing something about it. You know, what does that make me? And that's something I kind of realized that is like, okay, now this not to get too philosophical, but I was talking with someone and they said you got to find your rock. I don't know if you know about Sisyphus. You know about Sisyphus? He was basically this guy in Greek mythology, and he would push this rock up this hill every day, but every night it would fall back down. And so every day he would need to carry that rock up the hill, and then every night it would fall back down, and again for his whole life.
Like a new
And
challenge every day. Is that kind of like what that meaning behind that is?
no, more so like I don't want to get too like sad or depressing, but like life is gonna be painful. Like life isn't easy. Life is
Yeah,
hard.
no, I
You know what I
understand what you're
mean?
saying.
And and basically what he was trying to explain to me, he's like, you got to find your rock. He's like, what do you find? You got to find something in your life because we all need meaning in life, right? That's something I truly believe in. But it's up to us to find the meaning. It's up to us to decide what's meaningful in our life. And I think what he was trying to tell me is like, you got to find your rock in the sense of you got to find something that will bring meaning to your life, and then you got to like do it every day in a sense. And I think part of my rock is, and I'm starting to find it now, is youth football in BC and like raising the ties of all teams, and that's something that I'm really passionate about because it's just unacceptable right now the level it's at, and it's something that like I because of my experience I know what good sound football looks like, and right now it's just not happening, and that's what breaks my heart because it's only hurting the kids. It's like I don't care, like I don't need to be having my name everywhere, helping all the like. I just want the kids to have a better experience growing up, and I want to raise the level of football in the province of BC. And that's definitely part of my rock. I think I'll carry now for the rest of life is like how can I do that? But I think it's something we all got to look at is like what are we doing in our communities? Because if you're not doing anything, then can you really be angry at the SFU news because you didn't do anything? Because you weren't involved in the community. I mean, that's kind of sometimes the way I think is like we just we need to build a community, and no better way than sport.
Really well said, man. I'll be honest, I don't have a lot of viewers yet or following by any means, but I really hope somebody or the right person sees this and maybe just picks this up and really somebody that needs it, because you're preaching some really good messages right now. And for someone that um I coached back at my high school football, or I guess maybe I shouldn't say that. I coached, past tense, at my high school football. It is in transition. I believe it is kind of deciding whether it's folding its program or not, which is kind of unfortunate. It kind of
Oh,
is
your high
yeah,
school,
yeah.
or the
So
one you coach at?
yeah, so I went to Nanaimo
Oh
District
man.
Secondary over here in Nanaimo, and they've had the program here around 25 years or so. I have a we won the provincial championship in 2016. I was the offensive coordinator, so I don't have a ring as a player, but I do have as an offensive coordinator. So that's kind of a
Well,
cool little nugget. But
that's cool.
after COVID, we kind of took a really big hit in terms of numbers, and then just interest with the team. And then last year was a very tough year. I was once again the offensive coordinator, but our school size is, so I'm not sure if you're familiar with the AAA and AA here in BC, but our school size is AAA. But when I was in high school, we played at the AA level just because a few high schools in town here closed. We got all the kids, so uh, the senior boys number went up, so then we had to go to AAA, and now we
Hmm.
unfortunately just the level of play don't have a lot of success. So when you have like winless seasons, kids don't want to play, and then just after
Oh
COVID, there
wow.
was like no interest. So I preach so much about just what you're saying about like if you want the community to change, then you better go out there and kind of like change it yourself, if you will. And like
Yep. If not you, then who? You
yeah,
know.
right. So another thing with the program kind of up in the air, I wasn't sure if we were going to be coaching next year. And then one thing that was kind of just disappointing for me last year is the kids were, I felt like a little bit like tapped out or like just not interested. And
Yeah, that hurts the most because
yeah, it
it's
hurts.
nothing you can do really to
Yeah, and like
put the into love into the game into the.
for someone, I'm not sure if you your coaching opportunities, but high school level, that's all volunteer, right? And like for some of
Yeah,
those days when
yeah.
like I work 8 hours and then it's like I'm straight to the practice field instead of like going home and being able to take off my work boots and kind of like
Mm-hmm.
relax. It's like I'm up and I'm at work at 6:30 and then I'm off at 3. I'm
Yep.
right to practice and then I'm like home around 5:30. So it's like it's such long days, but um Caged Athletics was a athletics program here in town that recently started up. A friend of mine, Sean Arabsky, I played junior football with him. He ended up playing, I believe, a season or two at the University of Carleton in 2018-19. If I'm not mistaken, he was a defensive back. He returned home. He studied kinesiology when he went to Carleton. He returned home and
Okay.
he is kind of in the startup of starting skill development through the Cage Athletics facility here. So
No, good, good.
during Christmas break, we ran our first like little touch league for the junior bantams and peewees here. And then
Oh
starting in, I
wow.
believe it was like January there, we started like skill development for that age. And then as well as like college prep kids, because like for kids that were on the island, like myself, there was no like, I'm not sure if, I guess you are familiar with like the things like Game Ready over there
Oh yeah,
and
air raid.
like, yeah, air raid, those kind of things. They're for people on the island, and obviously it isn't far for people to travel over there and have opportunities like that, but maybe it costs a little bit more than being able to have it here in town. So we are in the beginning stages of starting skill development here at here. I'll do a little shout out.
Oh, that's awesome. You should start a 7-on-7 team with the kids too.
There's
Oh,
our
that's
logo.
nice.
So
That's nice.
that is actually our plan. I'm not too much I don't run I'm not hands on in that thing. That is all Sean's department. But I believe from what
Okay.
he's been telling us, his plan is, I believe, not this summer, but next summer to kind of start entering into that 7-on-7 territory and getting some
Oh, let's
teams into
go.
that. So uh,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I can't
Love
agree
that.
more with what you're preaching, man. This has been so much better. I had high expectations already, but they've went above and beyond my expectations for this and kind of how I wanted this to go and just some of the lessons I think kids can learn from this, the inspirations from like a guy like yourself that kind of has played and like you said, right, like you're 27 years old, you played football in Tennessee and Florida and all around North America and being able to get that experience from a football that we love so much, right? And the opportunity that can come with something like that. So
Mm.
before we get out of here, Mike, I just want to say a quick thank you to yourself for joining me. I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day. Like I said before, I know you're training and all that sort of thing all day, so I know it's late. So really
Oh,
appreciate
no
you,
problem.
man. I hope everybody that tuned in tonight really enjoyed this episode. If you guys would like to see Mike back, if you liked the content we had on this tonight's episode, please get at me in the comments down below. Get at me on social media. Please feel free to continue to like, comment, and subscribe on the YouTube. Share any of the content, whether that's on Apple Podcast, the YouTube channel, and with the Apple Podcast, please continue to download, follow the channel, all sorts of good things. Mike, I'll leave you with any last words that you want to say for the people. And like I said, man, I can't thank you enough. And
Oh,
anything
no
you'd like to
problem.
say, where can the people maybe find you, that whole sort of deal?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter, but I don't really use Twitter ever. And Instagram, I'm not really big into social media. I know probably should be more because I have a
It,
platform, right? So I'm trying
it,
to
It's a
Yeah.
toxic place though too, Mike. I
It
can't
is.
lie. I can't
It's
lie, man.
toxic for sure. But
As,
that it goes back to what we say, man. It's what you focus on. Like that's what I focus on instead of focusing on how many kids I can reach, you know. So that's kind of I'm trying to use it for good now. So I'll definitely be on Instagram more often. Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Thanks, Mike, for joining us, man. I believe right now you are kind of a free agent. I don't believe you have a team. So from me to you, man, I'm wishing you the best. You have a fan
Oh,
in
thank
me
you.
wherever you
Appreciate it.
sign. Uh, Obviously, maybe not when you come back to play BC. I won't maybe be rooting for you, but you have a fan in me, man. I'm rooting for you, and I wish you the best. And I hope you find nothing but success for yourself, man. So I appreciate
Oh, thank
everybody.
you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate everybody for tuning in, and thanks for catching another episode of Coast to Coast Gridiron, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.